AICTE, Ministry of HRD, and Government of India for technical programs, and Bar Council of India for law programs. It has been graded A by the National Assessment and Accreditation Council in second cycle. Geetharathan International Business School has been rated A plus by State Fee Regulatory Committee, a fee committee of Government of NCT of Delhi, and rated highest grading A by Joint Inspection Committee of Government of NCT of Delhi and GGSIP University. It has been rated A by Academic Audit Cell of Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University consecutively for past 8 years. Also, Geetharathan International Business School has been rated as number 2 Pan India by Times Business School Survey in 2018, 19, and 21. At GIBS, thrust is given on disseminating knowledge on new concepts which are being applied in the industry. Going by this agenda, today's panel discussion is based on recent marketing trends. This discussion on the impact of COVID-19 on various marketing mix is going to enlighten students as how to business can regulate its marketing strategies to ensure survival and growth in the market. COVID-19 as a pandemic has affected dramatically the entire global economy and firms' survival all across the world. Lockdowns on various occasions has affected the consumer behavior and hence the need to reform the market. Although in this time of uncertainty, the formulation of marketing strategies are experimental in nature. And the main objectives of this panel discussion are to define the impact of COVID-19 on marketing strategies, to understand the relevance of adapting to changing times, to understand the changes adopted in various marketing strategies used in markets. Now, it's the time to welcome our speakers for the day. We are honored to have Saksena sir, amongst us today. We heartily welcome our three honorable speakers for the day. Our moderator for this panel discussion is Dr. Anjali Gupta Man, Associate Professor at Geetharathan International Business School. Dr. Anjali Gupta Ma'am is currently working as Associate Professor with Geetharathan International Business School. She is a management graduate with specialization in marketing. She has completed her PhD from CCS University, Meerut, and also carries MA English, MBA, PGDMBM, and Diploma in Marketing from AIMA. She is a diligent and dynamic professional with more than 2 decades of rich experience in the domain of education and training with core competency in marketing and communication. She has the ability to set realistic priorities and initiate flexible courses of action to attain objectives. She has organized and participated in various national and international level seminars, conferences, and workshops, and undertook various personality development programs for management students. So, without any further ado, let us take the session forward. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Saksena sir, the business head of the Good Edge, sir, a strong self-starter with 26 years of experience in corporate communication and public relations with leading Indian and multinational corporations, capable of aligning early with organizational priorities, a keen ability to work with high-level executives and talent while anticipating their need in advance, excellent written and communication skills with an eye for detail, brilliant persuasion skills, and a passion for achieving objectives, both big and small. I would now hand over today's session to Samir sir.
Thank you, Mansi. Thank you very much. And I would like to begin by greeting my fellow panelists, Mr. Indrajit Miytra, Mr. Rohit Kumar and Dr. Anjali Gupta, who's the moderator. Thank you very much. So when Dr. Abhinav Gupta reached out to me to sort of talk to me about this particular seminar and the topic, I thought it was very pertinent, especially since the last 2 years have seen a major change in how marketeers and communication professionals and PR professionals and brand managers, look at the entire advertising, communication, and marketing scope. So let me sort of begin by sharing some statistics with all of you. So traditional advertising has decreased by 40%. 45% of global consumers are devoting more time to social media. Online video streaming has increased by 26%. Online gaming traffic has increased exponentially. And the number of consumers using online for any kind of delivery has risen dramatically by more than 65%. As a result, brands are looking to optimize their marketing practices to better reflect the increase in online transactions, communication, and face time with consumers. So what really hit us 2 years back was something that we as marketeers or communication professionals had never expected. Things were looking good, and then suddenly COVID hit us. The lockdown came, and then all of us were scrambling to relook at our marketing strategies, to relook at our communication strategies, because things had gone completely haywire and topsy-turvy. So let me sort of go back a few years, and I would like to quote from Kotler, who's the marketing guru, who says that great marketeers do not just rebound from crisis. They continuously reinvent business models and marketing strategies during chaotic times so that they can adapt quickly as circumstances in the marketplaces change. And when COVID struck and the lockdown was announced, we were all witnessing something unique. We or our preceding generation had never seen anything like this. As people, this was new to us, and so was the case with us as marketeers. We had to quickly step in and tweak the marketing mix so that it remained relevant and effective. I remember a meeting, I had with one of our clients who was into big time, manufacturing, and we had to impress upon him that he had to remain invested in marketing during and after the lockdown. It was a brave decision by him, no doubt, but because they were prepared and they had continued to sort of, market their products and services, they were also able to increase their profits significantly faster when the recovery started, as compared to some of their competitors or people in the marketplace who had cut down their marketing expenditure, because suddenly you had to sort of begin from ground zero for people who had cut down their marketing expenditure. So what really came across was that continuing with marketing was as important as tweaking the marketing mix. And for us in marketing, it was important to advise the clients on how to spend his marketing dollar, which would give him the best ROI. Because suddenly people were saying, what will my marketing dollar get me? And this wasn't a question which was very, very common before the COVID struck. Suddenly people were saying, how do I get ROI out of every marketing dollar that I have? It was also important to balance short-term and long-term needs, right? Because you had to be, you couldn't be myopic at that point of time, right? And you could not have too much of disruption, happening to the way you market yourself, because of the pandemic. So let me sort of come to the P's of marketing, right? And I'm going to just talk about 3 P's, not the 4 P's. So one obviously was the place. right? Suddenly with the lockdown, physical interaction had come to a standstill. So how would you reach out to your prospective customers, prospective buyers? The primary question for brands and obviously businesses was, how can we adjust employee and customer interaction to maximize safety and still deliver what the customer needed or wanted? And what do you see? Suddenly everybody wanted a digital presence. Social media was high up on the agenda. Websites came up. Digital marketplaces were in demand. We had so many digital marketing marketplaces which came up in India and obviously across the world. The other P, price, right? I mean, suddenly everybody, all consumers, they were holding back. They were holding back their buying decisions because there was economic uncertainty and adversity. Buyers were understandably exercising caution before saying yes to a purchase decision. So how would you then ensure that people were buying your product, right? The third P, which is promotion, and this is where as marketing people, we saw the maximum change. Enterprises wanted each of their marketing dollar to make a difference. They wanted to engage their audience and deploy their marketing strategy, but more importantly, they were also focusing on the context of the message that they were transmitting via the various channels. So I consider a website, a social media, traditional PR, traditional advertising as mere channels. What is important is, what are you saying? What are your key messages? What is your content, right? How are you engaging people? Suddenly, for marketeers, performance metrics were being reviewed. Organizations were blending commerce and compassion. And this was something that was unheard of. I mean, every organization was focused on commerce, but they were now blending commerce and compassion. Enterprises were trying to be seen and heard by their audience, and clearly they were wanting to send out a message which said that they cared, that they understood the challenging times, and that their doors were open. So you see how the enterprises have now sort of are now changing. How are they talking to their people? So if you look at the marketing mix, right, we had to ensure that it was purpose-driven marketing, it was mission-based, and it was cause-related. Any other marketing was not working in the marketplace. Let me quickly come to public relations. I'm a PR and a marketing communication person. I've spent 26 years doing that, and public relations came very, very handy because PR helps build trust, right? Building trust was the cornerstone of all marketing strategies and campaigns, and here is where PR played a crucial role. It helped us navigate the crisis, right? It has always been more cost effective than traditional advertising, and this really came handy for enterprises, companies, organizations which were already doing PR or wanted to do PR, right? It strengthened relationships by showcasing enterprise as a solid and trustworthy partner. Obviously, it helped build trust. And what PR also allowed us was that it helped us formulate content which was truthful, clear, and accurate. And this, to a new discerning customer audience, was the most important aspect which influenced their buying decision. And this is something that we have seen across various sectors. Our agency, which is the Good Edge, right? We work with clients who are in BFSI, who are in manufacturing, who are in accounting, who are in management consultancies, digital commerce. A lot of fintechs are things that we work with. And finally, if you look back, I mean, if you look back to the 2 years, none of our marketing strategies were conceived with disruptors like the corona even remotely in mind. I mean, if somebody had said that they had created a strategy 3 or 4 years back which could counter something like corona, I would doubt very much. But the fact is that we as marketeers responded, right? We understood, we adjusted our strategies, we tweaked our strategies, right? But what we also realized is that apart from the 4 Ps, we also got the 4 Cs, which are essentially chaos, calamity, confusion, and complexity to work with. So I would now sort of, like to sort of, conclude by saying that as future marketeers, brand managers, marketing and communication professionals who are listening to me, right? Just keep these 4 or 5 points in mind. The first one is you're not competing with your competitor, but competing with the last best experience your customer had. So that is your competition. Your marketing mix must satisfy customers who expect you to have exactly what they want. They are not looking for people who will give them something that they want. They want people who will give them exactly what they want. Your marketing mix must make the customer sit at the heart of your customer journey. That is extremely important. And this is something that we have learned in the last 2 years. Customers have to sit at the heart of your customer journey. Be agile. I mean, we keep on talking about technology, which is agile, etc., but marketeers have to be agile. You have to think on your feet. You have to be innovative. You have to sort of, think out of the box. And finally, brands which stand behind great values are brands which will prosper. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights. Your words are really fruitful for all of us. Now, I would like to invite our second speaker for the day, Mr. Indrajit Miytra, sir, co-founder and CEO of the Delta Exchange. With more than 14 years of experience working in Canada and India, he is passionate about using emerging technologies like AR, VR, IoT, blockchain, CRMs, BI tools, RPAs, recognition algorithms, etc., to make things simple, smart, intuitive, and beautiful. Experimenting with new ideas, envisioning use cases, designing solutions to solve business challenges, and unlock growth opportunity is his forte. Passionate about impactful value creation in society, he has been an entrepreneur for past 6 years. He look forward to building upon ideas and build business around those ideas that will have maximum positive impact across a wide cross section of our society. With past international experience across digital media, consulting, software development, and creative technologies, he is currently the co-founder at technology company developing IT products and services with a focus in the social impact and sustainability space. Now, I would like to hand over today's session to Indrajit sir.
Thank you very much, Mansi, and thank you to everyone at Gita Ratan International Business School for making me a part of this panel discussion. And it's a pleasure to be, alongside Mr. Samir Saksena and Mr. Rohit Kumar. There's some great insights by Mr. Samir about reimagining the marketing mix, during this COVID-19 era and beyond. As we have all, realized, and we have all, become more aware, as to, how life has changed for the entire world, and, how the changes has happened in the way we work and how we interact with one another. And with all these changes, even with companies, with their products and their services, the marketing channels, even if they are the same, but the way the marketings are happening and the way organizations and companies are reaching out to the customer, is seeing a pretty drastic shift. And based on that, I would be very specific as to look at the changes from a customer's point of view, because in the end, that is what has seen a major change in the way customers interact with organizations or brands or companies or products. So understanding your customer is like paramount nowadays, with all these changes that are happening in the, and what we have seen is, with various companies, keeping your customer in the center of your brand journey or your product journey or your services journey is something that is seeing a lot of changes there. Also, understanding your customer, from the circumstances they are living around, and then the relevance of the situation that they are in. uh, there is a terminology that has come up, which is the crib economy, and nowadays customers are very, very, specific as to what they want, and who they want to back in terms of a product, or a company, or a brand. Even from an understanding of your customers standpoint, I would say one has to get into the understanding of the values that a customer is following, and the values and the beliefs. And also, nowadays, one size fit all does not work anymore. There's a lot of personalization and localization in terms of marketing strategies that are happening. uh, if I have to, again, do a deep dive into the customers thinking and archetypes, what are we seeing, in today's uh, new world, the new normal as we speak? A customer is looking at affordability, first, due to the various things have changed in the economy. So they are more looking towards product functionality than a brand. So companies uh, have to be very focused towards the functionality of a product that they are providing. Also, we have seen, in today's the COVID era and beyond, health also is a very big thing, in terms from a customer's perspective. So minimizing the risks, and protecting health is paramount on a customer's mind. So they're very health conscious in terms of what they are consuming. Even from a standpoint of the planet first approach, that the awareness has been built around the world, and even in India, customers are looking at using products or services, and what kind of impact it has on the environment as per their beliefs. Uh, from a society first perspective, again, customers looking at organizations and products and brands who are very transparent, and who are out there to do a greater good towards mankind, and it's not leaving a lot of bad footprints on the society and planet. And last but not the least, experience, like Mr. Samir said, the experience of a product or a brand, from a customer standpoint, uh, is very important. And because more or less, people are living in the present, and that experience needs to happen. So having said that, for me, data and technology has to be at the core of the four C's of marketing, if I may say so. And the four C's are content. So a lot of experience is being provided by by companies for their marketing purposes through the videos and the gaming and the app world. uh, the other second one is commerce. So a lot of physical retail, e-commerce, and hybrid models are also coming up, and coming into the mix of the marketing mix. uh, Creating a community, that is something that is also happening a lot in today's world, in the post COVID era. So customers want to be part of a community, that they want to be connected to the brand, be connected to other people who have the same beliefs and values. And companies are doing that through various trade shows,
धोनी को
webinars,
लेना नीचे का
group interactions,
तो नीचे से
etc.
बुला ले जाके इसको यार
And fourth would be convenience. Customers have to be provided that convenience, again, through loyalty, coupons, benefits, that they're looking for. And all these things can happen with the use of technology and data integration as we speak. So we are seeing a lot of more sales from the internet, where organizations are going digital first. And how are they doing that? They are making better interfaces, which are consumer facing, so that the experience is great for the consumer. There's a lot of automation and data integration, that brings back a lot of data as to, where about your customer specific information that you require to make your product better, to make your marketing strategies more optimized, and to reach the customer and to connect with them. And also, because everything is going digital first, there's a lot of emphasis given by various industries to the back-end cloud infrastructure that needs to be set up. Uh, Also, we are seeing for customers, for organizations, they are moving from a defensive approach to an offensive approach, in terms of their marketing mix. When I say offense, a lot of brand value is being built. A lot is happening to hold on to existing customers, by providing them with specialized offerings and localized offerings. And also the communication channels are being kept open, and are being created for direct feedback from your customers. Understanding, like I said, again, I'm just keeping everything at the core. I'm keeping everything from a customer specific standpoint. Understanding your customers deeply is a change that we have seen, where organizations are also thinking about sustainability of their products, sustainability of a certain business model, from a long term perspective. A lot of funding is going into funds is going into research and experimentation across various platforms and marketing models. If you see, there's a lot of video marketing that happens, and influencer marketing happens, and a lot of people, due to the new digital world, have become influencers in various fields with a lot of followers. So brands are going into that direction to reach out to that specific customer segment. And also organizations are expanding to new segments and geographies, because again, from an offense marketing perspective, it's better to have a bigger funnel, from to be safe as an organization. And last but not the least, what we are also seeing is, nobody's working in silos. People are building partnerships. People are acquiring other kinds of organizations to build their brand value, to build their product value. And building partnerships also widens your customer base. So having said that, uh, bottom line is, I would say, keep the customer at the core of all your strategies, and use as much technology and data integration as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank, thank you so much, sir, for your valuable words. It seems like we are getting a pool of knowledge today. So, coming forward to our third speaker for the day, I would like to invite Mr. Rohit Kumar, sir, co founder of White Canvases. He has a deep knowledge about market research, data sciences, data visualization, benchmarking market research, data science, data visualization, and many others. He is the director of Consumer Insights, and he has completed his education from Symbiosis Institute. He is a dynamic personality with many years of experience in the corporate world. So, I would like to invite you, sir, and I would hand over this session to you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mansi. A bit of a tough task to follow up on Sameer and Indrajit. I'll try my best to measure up to this. If anyone can, from GIBS side, allow me to present. I have just a couple of slides just to support
Yes,
a
yes, sir. I
few.
would be doing it. Just give me a second. Just I will
Yeah,
do it.
and in the interest of preserving bandwidth, I'm switching off my camera.
Yes, sir. I made you the presenter.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm not really sure about in the audience if we have the first year students or the second year students or if it's a mix. My words are for all of you over here. If you're a second year student who will be graduating this year, it's a tough period for you guys. I completely understand because the entire 2 years would have been online and you would not have got the opportunity of mingling with your uh, course mates and your batch mates. Trust me, that's one of the most wonderful experiences you could have had. And thanks to COVID, that was snatched away from you. But
It's
nevertheless, I'm sure you all would be present on. Are you guys able to hear me? Yeah, I'm audible.
yes, sir. You are
Uh,
audible, and it's a mix of students of first year and second year.
okay, perfect. No worries. And I'm sure all of you would be having your WhatsApp groups and you would be interacting with each other over assignments and projects and all. But I do feel the pain that you would have felt very closely of not visiting the institute, not interacting and mingling socially with all your other batchmates. So I don't know how that void will be filled up. Maybe after 5 or 6 years time, you might think about studying further. So that's your personal call. But having said that, it is important to, at this juncture, look back as well as look forward. All right. So when I say look back, I think it's important to look at all those outlier events in the past 100 years that has completely disrupted our lives. And like Samir said, that no one would have imagined, or no risk analyst would have imagined a kind of a pandemic that could have taken away 2 years of our precious lives. And I'm not even talking about the lives that have been lost and the jobs that have been lost, the businesses that have been lost. It's the sheer fact that 2 years of your lives have been inside the house. These 2 years have been very crucial as far as those people in this forum are concerned. So if you look back over the past 100 years, and I'm just using these 100 years because I personally have had first-hand experiences, of course, not for World War One, but from the stories that I have heard from my grandparents, because they were very small at that age, and they themselves heard the stories and horrors of World War One from their parents and grandparents. So it becomes a kind of a benchmark for the last 100 years that I'm trying to set over here. And I'm trying to look at these 100 years in terms of how exactly these events shattered a few lives, shifted a lot of normals outside their own periphery. And these are what I call, or what Nassim Nicholas Taleb has written in his book called The Black Swan. These are the Black Swan events. And I would urge all of you, if you've not read this book, just please go ahead. You'll come out much more intelligent, much more smarter after reading this book. All these events are all Black Swan events. And what are Black Swan events? You would obviously have heard about swans. Swans are all white in color. It's very rare that you find a black swan, and that's exactly what this whole book is about, which is talking about all those outlier events which have actually changed the course of lives of millions of people because of these events. World War One is, of course, the beginning of last year's century. Then we had the Spanish flu somewhere around exactly 100 years back, and this pandemic is actually a kind of mimicking that flu that happened about exactly 100 years back. And the third wave that we are in right now is supposedly mimicking again how it actually ended, which is the Spanish flu. Then, of course, you had the World War II. That's around the time when my father was just a small boy, and he again encountered a lot of difficulties as far as his life was concerned. 9/11 is something is very fresh in my memory. It was in my living memory, if you ask me. I was in office, and it was my first job straight out of college. And I was sitting in, my bosses came in when our CFO rushed to his room, and he informed everybody in the room that what has happened. And we immediately completely finished all our work, and it was late in the evening. And we visited the nearest pub, and which had a large TV. So we watched all those aeroplanes hitting the World Trade Center, and it completely changed the way people used to travel. The people used to perceive America and the Middle East, for that matter. Then again, the 2008 global financial crisis struck, and a lot of business was lost. And right now, we're in the coronavirus pandemic. The reason why I'm urging all of you to look back and see for yourself that all these events, all these earth shattering events came, they went, and life moved on. All right. So the message that I'm trying to land over here is these events will happen. We learn from them and we move on. All right. So a lot of learnings that I also wanted to share have already been shared by Samir, and he very beautifully pointed out that we need to move on, and we need to actually rebuild whatever has been lost. And of course, we strategize in such a way that we take this crisis head on, and we do not let it go as a waste. All right. So never let a crisis go waste, and you always try and find opportunity that you could find through whatever things through whatever events or outlier events that life has to throw at you, be it personal, be it external. All right. So to a large extent, there are just two very critical questions that you need to ask in terms of how exactly the marketing mix that we have to discuss over here needs to be looked at. All right. The very first question is, should the marketing dollars increase or not? And very pertinently, Samir sir has also already said the same thing through his experience of advising few of his clients, that come what may, this question always has to be answered with an affirmative and a resounding yes to it. All right. At no point in time should you think that there are customers who are losing their jobs, and they will be reducing their spends. But at the same time, that logic also prevails, that things will prevail. Think people will move on, and the economy will be back in track. And then what will you do, right? You would have lost a big time opportunity of keeping yourself relevant, keeping your memory relevant, keeping your brand recall relevant. If you do not spend that kind of a money, you tend to lose on that opportunity. All right. So if at all you are, and I'm talking to you as students right now who will be the budding entrepreneurs or managers or brand managers or marketing managers in the few years time, if at all you do encounter these life-changing events, do look back the last 100 years, and you will obviously learn that all these events that have come and gone, they have come and gone. All right. Basically, they have come and gone, and life has moved on. So your decisions should be based on the long term rather than the short term. Of course, in the short term, you will have to navigate the product, the price, the promotion in the places that you would be saddled with, but do not ever leave sight of the long term. All right. So that's the first question that you need to clearly answer. The second question is, of course, what must be done to retain and acquire customers? Because a lot of people would have lost their jobs, they would have lost the spending power, so to speak. All right. So a lot of people have lost their spending powers, and they're not spending on your product or your brand. Then what do you do? So in that event, there are four things that you need to abandon. Number one is just look at your product portfolio and see whichever are non-profitable products, just pull them back for the moment. All right. You can think about relaunching it once the time is right, And once the people are ready for that kind of a product, just abandon those products that are not profitable for you. All right. uh, Prices have already been talked about by Samir sir, and I'm not going to spend too much time on that, because prices are, again, if, in the context of people who have lost their spending powers, you need to relook your pricing strategy in that manner. All right. So you might want to abandon high margins and look at places where you can, be a little more compassionate, and that thought has already been mentioned by Samir sir, and it's really heartening to see a lot of corporates being very compassionate towards not only their customers but also their employees as well. All right. Abandon conservatism. All right. This is clearly linked to the fact that let me pull up my laser pointer. It is clearly linked to the fact that the very first question you're trying to answer is, should the marketing spends increase? Yes, this is going to be in direct contravention with this, but you have to promote those services and products which the people want from you guys. All right. And again, from the place point of view, you may want to look at abandoning those non-profitable channels which are taking a lot of your resources, a lot of your time, a lot of your money in terms of reaching to the clients. A lot of businesses have gone online these days. The fact that we're doing this entire conversation online is testimony to the fact that things can happen in a different way than we had imagined earlier. All right. There's a fifth P that we don't talk about, which is a process, and it is very clearly linked to my industry where I come from, which is marketing research. I've been closely associated with this industry for the past 2 decades now, and I've seen it grow. And this gray line that I want to draw your attention to is the stark reminder of the fact that the pandemic has actually helped us go online. All right. In the first decade of this century, that is the time when I started my career, the entire marketing research industry was all pen and paper, right? The last decade, which is from 2010 to 2019, 18, it was a hybrid of pen and paper and a tablet-led or handheld devices-led data acquisition. But now, because of the fact that we have been forced to go online, we have very clearly we have very clearly clients coming up to us that, hey, let's go online and get this thing done, because we don't want to lose onto that gap in data, which will be highly invaluable to us in these times. All right. So come what may, it's just a question of how you want to strategize, how you want to change your processes. And this particular slide is a glaring example of my industry, where the processes have been navigated towards how things can be done despite and in spite of the pandemic. Because people were not allowed to move out of their homes, but yet the clients wanted data, and that is the reason why we had to go online. So everything happened from the comfort of our rooms, our studies, our bedrooms, our living rooms. Client also was happy that they were getting data on time. Given the fact that it was pandemic, they were again happy to discount a few things, a few geographies. But the fact remains is that the processes were changed very quickly, and the clients were able to adopt online methodology at a snap of a finger, which we had been struggling to over the past 5 to 6 years, right before the pandemic struck. So this is something which I wanted to share as a personal experience of mine from the marketing research agencies and the industry, where the pandemic has helped us, move the needle on a process which we had been experiencing difficulty making our clients to adopt. I hope I'm able to, add on to what Indrajit and Samisa had said, and it gives a kind of a rounded up picture to all you students. And happy to have any questions if you have any.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. That was really a very wonderful way of explanation. We are really full of knowledge right now. So now I would like to hand over today's session to our moderator, Dr. Anjali Gupta ma'am.
Thank you, Mansi. And I once again welcome all three of you, Mr. Rohit, Mr. Sameer, and Mr. Indrajit, right? And it was a wonderful insight when you have talked about, as rightly been said, everything which comes, we have to move on, and everything is having ups and downs. Something are good enough, something are bad enough. As rightly been quoted by Mr. Rohit, that this particular pandemic has made it the processes a bit fast. The things, even I think as a faculty, we haven't thought of getting the things online, had made us, getting online. And today, one of the aspect is you people have been sitting in different destinations, and we are still been discussing on the reimagining of marketing mix. So this is all because of COVID, because otherwise we would have invited you offline and there would be have a face-to-face interaction possible. Right. So, a lot of things been mentioned when we said that market dollar has to increase, and the other way we have been saying that consumer aspect, we have to in and around the consumer, right? We have to think of what exactly they want. So again, it is, I think the maxim old was been saying that consumer is ultimately the king. And still we have been talking about that today more important is because this corona has taught every one of us that we have to control our expenses. We have to think of something which is really required, right? And that is again from the marketer's perspective have also to be thought upon, right? So I had some questions because the four P's we have talked about, the four C's about the complexity, compassion, chaos, which has again been there, and how to again more emphasis onto the content. I just want to ask, right, that when we are talking about the content today, when we are being saying digital presence has been must, every company, whether smaller or bigger, has to have the connectivity, because I think within this last 2 years, probably this arena has been covered by all. Right. So, what exactly you think, from a customer's perspective, right? The companies have to emphasize onto the content aspect, because a lot of I think career avenues have been there onto the content part, right? So probably if anybody of you would like to focus, and then I would be question specific to these speakers, right? Then okay, so let me again frame the question, and I would be asking it specifically. My first question would be to Mr. Sameer Saksena, that what are the different types of promotional campaigns company get into the extremely powerful role of online PR management in this crisis situation? Right, when we are talking about the traditional PR and when we are talking about the online PR, right?
So thank you very much, Dr. Gupta. Let me just clarify before I answer that, right? PR is PR. If you talk about digital, if you talk about traditional, if you talk about online, these are essentially channels,
Okay.
right? What is important in PR is your messaging, is your content. And why is messaging and content very important these days is because if you look at people who are essentially working from home, I am working from home for the last 2 years. I'm sure, some of my other panelists are also doing the same thing. People today have the time to consume content, which wasn't the case 2 years back. 2 years back, the entire marketing was focused on the visual. Today, people have the time to consume content, and that is why content is becoming increasingly important in your marketing mix, right? Uh, Content, obviously, is the most important thing. Again, when we come to channels, if you look at digital channels and online channels, they suddenly, um, they have the they've just made the entire universe come much closer. And I'll give you an example. A traditional publication has a couple of lakh readers, right? Digital online channels have millions and millions of people who are accessing them every day. Your entire consumption pattern of news, of messages, of marketing, of advertising has completely changed. Today, you are reaching, an audience which is 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 times larger. What it does is it gives you the spread, it gives you the width, but it also makes things harder, because now you are reaching multiple generations. You are reaching, multiple demographics and psychographics. And how do you ensure that your content is relevant for every age group, for every generation? Indrajit spoke about technology. Technology is playing a huge role. Virtual reality, augmented reality, these are things which are, actually driving a lot of your marketing these days. Because people, in the absence of a physical proximity where they cannot touch and feel a product, right? They actually want to see the same product through augmented reality, virtual reality. They want to read about that product in much more detail. So content is extremely important. Content could be written, content could be video, content could be, through the use of various technologies like VR and AR, right? I think content is no longer only the written word. Content is anything which gives you information, data, right, about certain products and services. I think that is where
Absolutely.
is extremely important, and obviously that is how content has changed in the last 2 years.
Absolutely, I agree with you, sir. That again today we cannot be, content specific. That is again we have to be taking into consideration all the generations, and I think that is the reason a lot of emphasis has been given to the content, and rightly been said that today everything is being taken away by digital, right? And yes, people are having time, because even if you have been passing by, even if you are commuting and traveling, you have the device and you can have a lot of information related with which otherwise was not possible, right? So my next question would
Ma'am,
be to, yeah,
ma'am, if I can add something to, and I want to
yes,
show the students something
absolutely, sir,
to what
absolutely,
Savi had
absolutely,
said, the
yeah,
agility and the kind of content that is being used offline and online. So this reminded me of a kind of a small war of coding that I've witnessed when I was still in Bombay. So down below you see JetAirways, and JetAirways was still relevant that time, and they had put up this hoarding somewhere around the airport, Ville Parle, that we have changed. All right, and within a few days, we got this Kingfisher hoarding which said, "We made them change." All right. So this was a very funny take in terms of how things, are communicated in terms of how you want to reach out to your customers at the right place. And the message that I'm trying to land over here is that it took at least 2 to 3 days for Kingfisher to come up with this hoarding. All right. And right now, as we speak, we are all on digital domain, and like Samir sir said, that we do have access to millions of people through digital. And very clear example was around, I think, the IPL last year, when Rahul Dravid's ad had come from Cred. And I don't know if you remember that ad, Indranagar ka gunda hu main. Indranagar is a small place in Bangalore, and Rahul Dravid hails from there. And there was a very funny ad that was placed by Cred. Uh, and he was shown breaking windows and outside rear view mirrors of cars, and he was proclaiming himself as the Indranagar ka Gunda. That same evening, Cars 24 came up with an ad which said that we've heard there is a Gunda on the loose in Bangalore, and if you want to sell your cars, here's our service, Cars 24. All right. So it's the kind of the agility that is brought about by these tools that we have access to right now, which are digital media. And there are very smart people sitting in these ad agencies who are constantly monitoring what is happening, and they are structuring their content around these different messages that are coming out. So just wanted to highlight and build on what Samir sir just said in terms of how agile this whole business is, and how deep is the reach of media, and especially digital media these days.
absolutely.
And
I think because as
and if
rightly been mentioned, That agility has been there, and I think we can easily say that you have to keep your pace, otherwise you are out of the race. So if you're not keeping the track on this digital aspect, keeping an eye and getting it done, as you rightly been said, and they have positioned it just above the jet airways, and the transition between the two is automatically clear, that who is better to be decided. Right. So my next question is to Mr. Indrajit. uh, with regards to the online transition that business are making in the COVID-19 impacted business landscape. So kindly share insights for businesses that are inherently having physical distribution as the nature of business, for example, luxury retail.
Uh, okay, I might not have all the data in front of me, but I would like like to add on to Mr. Samir and what Mr. Rohit said. For any brand or for any company or for any organization, nowadays with the collective consciousness that has taken a drastic shift, uh, purpose of a brand or a product really matters from a customer's perspective. So let's say consumers, they are not just expecting action from the government or from your fellow citizens, but they're also expecting some kind of purpose driven actions from the brands. And I'm talking about consumers, for example, making charitable donations, or supporting local community initiatives, uh, the stuff like that. For example, Car Dekho, when we've all heard about Car Dekho, the brand, they changed their marketing strategy, and moved to self-serve digital solutions, where they were coming up with a different marketing uh, communication model, where they're being empathetic, more compassionate, change driven, change makers kind of a campaign. Even in the car insurance world, now one can buy an insurance by making a video of your car and uploading it, to showcase if your car is good or not. uh, uh, Again, technology has changed everything in terms of how you are selling to the customer. You cannot bore your customer into buying your product. You have to get them interested, by sharing that relevant information, or maybe by teaching a skill, helping them facilitate their work life balance, and entertaining as well. So there are various ways that has nowadays come up. Things are moving very drastically in the by Mark Zuckerberg in the metaverse world, but I am not too sure about how will that shape up. But if you are looking at catching on to trends, you know catching on to popular trends is always a great way to add to your marketing mix. But the trends that are mostly happening in the marketing mix that I see is there's a huge level of podcasting that happens, a huge there's huge influx of videos being produced for video marketing. In the end, as we are all aware, you have to understand the psychology of the mass, and how uh, the attention spans are reducing. So creating these small snippets of interest points from a marketing perspective, even to make it much more quicker and much more there are voice search mechanisms that has come into place into your devices, into your interfaces, or visual search things. uh, and last but not the least, obviously you have to keep a track of the platforms that are working as the second Google. YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, they are like search engines now, just not Google. People go there and try to look for whatever they are trying to find. So you have to latch on to those trends as well, where your customer is consuming content from.
Fine. Thank you, Mr. Indrajit. Rightly been said that we have to connect ourselves to the different platforms available where the consumers are being there and we can develop the connect with them. More important is to develop a connect and understand them, because accordingly, I think they would be able to develop a better strategy, right? So my next question would be to Mr. Rohit. Is there any reject companies will be doing with respect to the product distribution fit after the COVID-19 impact?
Ma'am, can you repeat? I was not able to hear the first line.
Yeah. Is there any reject? That means any changes, any modifications company will be
Okay.
doing with respect to the product distribution fit after the COVID-19 impact?
Okay, so I think I can use the example of one of my engagements with the fintech client, which we are advising through marketing research. It's again a Noida-based fintech, recently gone for an IPO. You can guess the name yourself. So, pandemic had affected a lot of their business as far as QR codes and getting payments through merchants through QR codes and credit cards were concerned. So the mandate to us was to figure out how exactly these merchants across Delhi, Bombay, and Bangalore were behaving post the pandemic, and why they were getting off their platform of using QR codes as a mechanism for accepting payments, and even those credit card machines. So when we reached out to a lot of these merchants across these three towns, what we realized was that, of course, like I said in my session, that a lot of people across India have lost the spending power, which meant that they're not reaching out to these merchants, which means that these merchant shops are closed, they're losing onto business, they do not want to spend too much on these kind of devices, and hence they're logging off. All right. Now, coming back to your question in terms of how exactly you're restructuring this, we also found out from the people who are actually using these devices, they have been missold certain items because of the fact that some trading has not been driven properly. So this entire episode was actually an eye opener for this fintech, and they realize that there are certain steps that they're missing, there are certain things that they're saying wrong, there's certain things that not doing correct as far as retaining these customers, and they've gone in for a complete rehaul of the process of reaching out to these merchants, so that and again, this is a B2B case study that I'm sharing with you guys, yet it is still relevant as far as selling and marketing your products are concerned, because the learnings can be applied not only to B2B, it can be applied to B2C as well. So what this entire episode tells us is the fact that you have to always have your ear to the ground. You always have to be speaking to your customer, be it a B2B customer, be it a B2C customer. You get a lot of learnings from people who are really unhappy with your product, right? And these are the people who are going to tell you, pandemic or not, what you're doing wrong and how you can, steer in the right direction. And that's how they were able to, clearly uh, 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 rehaul overhaul the entire process of training, the overall process of selling, and coming up with better packages for these merchants. I hope that answers your question, ma'am.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that leads to that cognitive dissonance is always very, very, alert for the marketers, because that is the situation if they are not count to what exactly the dissatisfaction of their customers and understand them and try to provide the information or at least train them or educate them. I think that would be beneficial. Thank you. And I would now leave it for the open forum for the questions by the audiences. So, yes, anyone would like to have the question? Please raise your hand so that yes, among the audiences. Manav, are you having any question to be asked?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I would like to ask a question. So, nowadays, a company is emerging, a new company of soap, Sebamed. So, it is directly positioning itself superior than the other brands like Lux and other companies, and trying to project that those companies are like not better than since like they are talking about the pH level of the soap. So, do you think that that is a good and legal and a good ethical way of doing that?
Samir, I think should take the first stab at answering this question. This
Let me
is a
quickly
complete PR led, but I'll be happy to put in after you're done.
let me do that. So Manav, this is an interesting question, and this is a topic which has you know disturbed all of us in marketing for the longest period of time, right? My and this is my opinion. This is clearly my take on this is, if you are highlighting your product, if you are highlighting your product with something that you think is unique, right, you are absolutely doing nothing wrong. But there is a very thin line, and marketeers have to walk a very fine tightrope between what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. As long as I focus on my strengths, it is completely acceptable, right? As the moment I start focusing on others' weaknesses, although it is a good marketing strategy for me, the point is that focusing on others' weaknesses is a two-way street, right? And it will come back to you. And Rohit had shared a very interesting, slide where he had showcased Jet Airways and Kingfisher. There is a very similar series of ads which were played between Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi a couple of years back, right? I suggest that all of you should go and have a look at the chronological events, right, in terms of when the ads came. Obviously, it was taken as jest. It was taken very sportingly by everyone. But the fact, and everybody focused on their own strengths. Nobody downplayed their competitor. So if I come back to the specific company that you have mentioned, right? As long as they are talking about something which they think is unique and something which they think is beneficial to the customer, is fine. I would personally go ahead with it. The moment you start talking and downplaying and talking dirty about your competition, remember that it will bounce back. And you have lost a fantastic opportunity to talk about your strengths by focusing on somebody else's weakness. And today's consumer is wise enough to see what you are doing. So don't let go of that opportunity to talk about your strengths and talk about your, your superior attributes, right? And let's not focus on the weaknesses of others. That's my simple take on this.
Okay, I'm not going to let this opportunity go, Samir sir, to put in my two bits on this. I slightly beg to differ in terms of my ideology. What Sebamed did was quite fantastic in nature. And for the students, I think it is good to have these two contrasting views. And I completely agree where Samir sir is coming from, that you should not breach that thin line between being obtuse as well as being unethical. So what Sebamed did was it completely did its own job of making itself relevant, making itself of making the people aware of its brand, riding on someone else's name. All right, it has been done countless number of times, and the whole objective of this whole ad campaign was to make people aware of Sebamed. All right, so that's I think. For the brand manager, if he or she's been able to do that, for a new brand, and if you are aware of that brand pyramid, the very first step that you need to step onto when you're on your brand journey is to make people aware of your own brand. And to that extent, I think the job was done, and it was done quite well. So that is the only take that I have in my input over here, Sunny sir. Really sorry if it contrasts with your opinion, and if it confuses a student, but it's a clash of ideology, if I would say. Yeah.
Fine. Now our head of Uma Gulati ma'am, our head of the department, is having a question. She is a market specialized person. So Uma ma'am, yes, you can have your question.
Yeah. Good evening to all the experts present in the panel discussion. I once again welcome you being head of the department. Sir, my question is that some brands, they position themselves in the COVID era in a very different way. Now, when the COVID era will be over, really they have to work for brand purpose, because holding brands to higher standards is a very tough task in the post pandemic period. So what do you think, that brand purpose have to be solved by them, because they position themselves as a very immunity brand, or maybe some other brand, their positioning was very different, and when this COVID will be over, how they are going to work? What are your views?
So let me take that, because I have sort of experienced this firsthand. So when at the height of COVID, when everybody was talking about, how do you secure yourself from the pandemic, I'm sure all of you remember that there was a brand of mattresses which had come out in the market saying that if you use our mattresses are COVID free. If you use our mattresses, right, you will not get COVID. And this has created quite a furor in the market, because people had suddenly woken up and said, how is this possible? What are you trying to do? I mean, are you trying to play on these sentiments of people by introducing a product, right, which all of us knew was completely, not okay. I mean, we don't have the technology to make mattresses which are bacteria and virus free and which can fight bacteria and virus, right? So what happened to that brand? That brand created a splash in the market. Everybody spoke about it for a week, and since then we haven't heard of that brand ever. That brand has gone into oblivion. So my take as a marketeer is that if you take an external circumstance, and if you want to take advantage of that, and if you position your brand, you have to be 200% sure that your brand has the attributes that you are talking about. Otherwise, your brand will not only suffer, but your entire marketing campaign will backfire. And I'm not even talking about the legal implications. I'm just talking about consumer perception, behavior, and the entire, and today consumers have the potential and the power to reject brands, right? And we all know that, these brands then they cease to exist. So simple stuff. Don't position your brands as per the external environment. Position your brand, with its own attributes, with its own strengths, right? Which you can claim and which you can prove for the longest period of time. Otherwise, all of these brands are essentially people who are taking advantage of the situation, flash in the pan. They will be, spoken about for a couple of days, and then nobody will hear anything about them for the rest of their lives. That's my take on, how do you sort of position brands as per the external circumstances and situations.
Absolutely, because brand commitment is very important. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, now the next question is going to be from fellow colleague, that is Dr. Tanmay Pant would like to ask. Yes, Dr. Pant.
So, a very good evening to all of you. At the outset, I extend my deepest gratitude to all the speakers, and it was indeed a satiating session. My question specifically is to Mr. Rohit. Sir, as somebody from the life insurance space, I totally attest to what you had to say about the distribution and the product set. So, my question is an extension of what you had said, sir. My question relates to the fact that, and I believe you were mentioning about the policy bazaar IPO. I believe so, right? So, sir, I have a question like that uh, before the pandemic struck, we saw that the in the life insurance space, the when product and the distribution fit was like that. Smaller ticket size policies, they were being sold online. Do you see a drastic change happening that larger policies are now being sold online with the same effect as they were, say, in the physical mode? Are there takers for those policies online, sir?
All right. So thank you so much for that question, sir. Policy Bazaar is also my client, but that particular example was for another fintech. so
Okay.
I cannot take names. But yes, to answer your question, I really don't have data in terms of substantiating the fact that earlier online was a little less, now it is more. But suffice to say, and I can quote from my own personal examples. I've been a consumer of life insurance, medical insurance, motor insurance for more than a decade now, and I have seen this industry transition. And I have multiple life insurance companies as clients who I've worked with, and I've helped them. And I've seen this entire industry transition from what it was to what it is right now. In fact, one of my batchmates from B School is running a soon-to-be unicorn fintech in the insurance space, motor insurance space, which is testimony to the fact that this entire industry is now moving away from the offline space to the online space, where people are now becoming much more comfortable as far as buying these products online. All right. We have players like Policy Bazaar, Paisa Bazaar. They help you, gain a lot of information as far as comparing products are concerned. I mean, it all starts with trying to reach for information, which all starts with from googling stuff about life insurance. And because the internet penetration has drastically improved over the past decade, and also coupled with the fact that a lot of people are now having at least one or two odd smartphones in hand. So it goes without saying that people are now very comfortable dealing online as they were about 5 years back. All right. Uh, Demonetization also was a big catalyst for people to go from cash to cashless. All right. I myself am a big fan of cashless. I do not remember going to the bank earlier to draw cash, or an ATM to draw cash. Even the lowest common denominator of the people who are working with us, be it our cooks, be it our health, be it our drivers, be it the person who comes to deliver newspaper, all of the people are accepting payments through online, be it Paytm, be it Google Pay, be it Bharat Pay, be it whatever that you can think about. All right. So suffice to say that this industry is completely ripe go to the next level and become an online player as far as people who are thinking about buying a motor insurance or a car or a life insurance or a medical insurance, because the information available is very, very rich. All right. And I do not expect that from my insurance agent, because I still have an insurance agent, because I'm an old man now, or if you want to call me a middle-aged man now. I still have the insurance agent who texts me every 6 months that, sir, your insurance premium is due. But all these processes and information are now easily available at the click of a button. All right. So to answer your question, yes, this industry is now transitioning very, very fast towards the online, and I think the pandemic is becoming a catalyst in that direction. I hope that answers your question,
So, sir,
Dr. Pant.
yeah, right, right. So, sir, sir, in that sense, do you foresee the roles of the agent, or can they be moved to the fringes now, or they will always remain relevant?
So, to that extent, I don't see a drastic change happening because there are millions and millions of FSAs, which are financial services agents. All these people will not lose their job overnight, obviously. All right. But at the same time, they would probably be looking at different skill sets to be improved upon that can enable them to move forward into their career. But yes, to a large extent, a lot of their job roles are being automated thanks to policy bazaars and pesa bazaars and all these different portals where you can easily go and compare different products to different policies, so to speak.
Right. So, sir, actually, it was quite nice to hear from the horse's mouth, somebody who is there, and somebody who has done that. So, and thank you so much for the information, and I really enjoyed your session. And thank you all the other guests. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the students? Disha, are you having any question? I think probably we can take one or two quick questions and then we have to wind off. Yes, Disha. Any other question? Kumar Shivam, you are having any question to be asked? I think Disha is not able to. Disha, you are not unmute yourself first because then only you would be audible. Your mic is. Okay, fine. I think yeah, since there are no more questions, I would like Mansi, to just. Mansi, are you there?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am,
fine.
I'm here.
Okay, now let me just sum up and give the vote of thanks, right? So I think it was a great experience having three eminent people, expertise working in the field, because we are into academics. At times we are been giving the content which has been available on site and which are available in the books, but direct coming the inputs from the people who are been there into the market, understanding the changes, understanding what has been happening. A lot of topsy-turvy has already been there in the last 2 years. I mean, whatever aspects we talk about, and has rightly been summed up the 4 Ps by Mr. Rohit, that it is very important the abandoning of non-profitable aspects, keeping the prices into control, though it's going to be a bit difficult for a time being. But if we have to let our economy grow, I think that has again been required. Talking about the restrictions into the channels we select, right? And as rightly been mentioned by Mr. Samir, that marketer has to be agile, because brands which have value will only be, prosper. Otherwise, it's very important that would only help to build trust. And talked about Mr. Indrajit Miytra. He rightly said that, data integration and technology is being very, very important today, because not only like people working at home, but I think the customers has also got a habit of the ease and convenience 24/7. Whenever they feel like they can place the order, they have all the things getting at the ease. I think that they have been liking, and the apprehensions which were been there related with the digital aspects has already been moderated with the use of AR and VR into it, right? So coming to the end of the session, thank you all the three experts, and I would like to formally convey my vote of thanks. First of all, it gives me an immense pleasure as Dr. Anjali Gupta, Associate Professor, working at Geeta Ratan, to give my vote of thanks to our Honorable Vice Chairman, sir, who is a great motivator and initiator. Let me tell you one thing very importantly, because previously we were been planning to have this as a marketing webinar, but he insisted that webinar is very common these days. It's more of a seminar. Students don't get, but you should transform it into the panel discussion. And it is his idea only that we worked on. So thank you so much, sir, for always guiding and inspiring. Now, the next again, the milestone into it is our head of the department, Dr. Ruma Gulati, who is a constant inspiration, motivator. She always guide us and tell us, you should again take insights from the corporate, try to have these kind of activities which will not only develop the students, but also help us in getting new information from the real world. I would also like to thank all the three people. Firstly, Mr. Samir Saksena, business head, the Godad. So thank you for giving us those insights. And, as you rightly said, PR is PR, whether it is online or traditional. We have to have good PR, then only we would be able to survive. Thank you, Mr. Indrajit, sir, co-founder and CEO of the Delta Exchange. So thank you very much talking about the data integration and the technology, and again talking about and bringing that ad into the that we made them change or we really change. And thank you, Mr. Rahul Rohit Kumar, as co-founder of White Canvases, sir, taking us not only from the 4 Ps but giving us the focus onto the 5th P, that was process. That yes, with the digital world, things which were seems to be impossible, take time over a decade, has been smoothened up, geared up within these last 2 years. Thank you, all of you. Right, it has been great experience. Learned, I think all these students must have gained a lot, and I am individually myself has gained a lot of insights from all of you three. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
So now, thank you so much. I would extend warm thanks to all the three speakers for the day for sharing their thoughts and experiences and guiding us through it. All the faculty members of the Geeta Ratan International Business School and students to make this event successful with your valuable time and presence. And at the same time, I believe this was a great session and we'll all have our learnings with us. We will be back again with another interesting discussion for you. Till then, take care, stay safe, and have a good day. And don't forget, opportunities don't happen, you create them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, all of you. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so